Magic Johnson is more than a basketball legend. He is a symbol of survival. Born into poverty, he rose from the ashes of humiliation to become one of the greatest athletes in American history. 5 NBA championships, 3 MVP awards, 12 All-Star selections, and over 17,000 points, more than 10,000 assists. A career that reshaped the game and inspired millions. But his life was never just about victory. Behind the glamour and applause was a childhood of shame, a life of constant struggle, and a battle with an illness that nearly erased him from existence. When the world expected his obituary, Magic Johnson rewrote his story, building a billion-dollar empire and becoming a powerful entrepreneur. This is the story of a boy who carried garbage at dawn and grew into a man who carried a nation toward hope. Born into hardship, the early years in Lansing Magic, Johnson entered the world on August 14, 1959, in Lansing, Michigan. The Johnson family lived in a cramped home where 10 siblings shared beds, blankets, and dreams that seemed too big for their small reality. His father, Earvin Johnson Jr., worked grueling shifts at General Motors, then woke before sunrise to drive a garbage truck through neighborhoods that looked down on them. His mother, Christine, scrubbed floors in schools until her hands cracked, returning home exhausted and worn. Poverty wasn't a temporary condition, it was a permanent presence, a shadow that followed them into every room. The children learned to measure portions, stretch resources, and keep silent about the pain. Magic remembers hearing his mother's weary sigh before seeing her face, knowing the struggle had become too heavy. That silence taught him one lesson. He had to become more than their circumstances. The name Trash Boy, that refused to leave. The deepest wound of Magic's childhood wasn't hunger, it was humiliation. At age 5, he began helping his father on the garbage truck. The work was brutal for a child, yet he carried the weight without complaint. But the neighborhood kids turned it into a weapon. They called him Trash Boy so often that the word became a part of him. The smell of garbage clung to his coat, and every Monday morning he scrubbed it until his hands bled, hoping to erase the proof of his life. But the teasing never stopped. The name wasn't a joke. It was a verdict. Years later, Magic admitted that the insult stayed with him longer than any smell. It carved itself into his soul, forcing him to question his worth. That cruelty planted the seeds of defiance that would later transform him into a champion. Every time he heard laughter, he remembered the garbage truck and vowed he would never be powerless again. The school that rejected him in 1971, when integration reshaped Lansing schools, Magic expected to join Sexton High, his dream school, where he believed he might finally fit in. Instead, the district sent him to Everett High. The bus carrying black students was pelted with stones. Windows shook violently, and the young Johnson clenched his fists in silence, swallowing rage he had nowhere safe to release. In the gym, teammates refused to pass him the ball. In the locker room, conversations stopped when he entered. Coaches ignored him as if he were invisible. The message was clear: you do not belong here. Magic later described the look people gave him, the kind that said his presence was a mistake. Loneliness didn't scream. It suffocated. But it also lit a fire. He learned that the world would not give him a place. He would have to take it. And so he began training harder, pushing himself until his body and mind became unstoppable. The concrete court that became his sanctuary. By 1973, Magic had found a refuge where the world's cruelty could not reach him. At 5 a.m., while Lansing slept under winter's brutal grip, he walked to an empty outdoor court. The cold bit his skin, and his breath rose like smoke in the dawn air. No one mocked him here. The court didn't care about race, poverty, or the name Trash Boy. It accepted him unconditionally. He dribbled, passed, and shot until his fingers went numb. His moves weren't born from flair. They were born from survival. Every practice was a rejection of the world that had tried to crush him. And then, in 1974, everything changed. In a dim high school gym, Magic exploded for 36 points, 18 rebounds, and 16 assists. The numbers were unreal for a teenager. A local reporter whispered the word that would follow him forever: magic. He loved it and feared it at the same time, knowing destiny had just placed a weight on his shoulders. The rise to stardom, the Lakers, and Showtime. By 1979, Magic Johnson was no longer Lansing's trash boy. He became the #1 overall pick in the NBA draft, chosen by the Los Angeles Lakers. The expectations were enormous, but he didn't just meet them, he shattered them. Within months, he transformed the Lakers into the Showtime dynasty. His game was electrifying, blending athleticism with artistry in a way that made basketball feel like a performance. In 1980, at just 20 years old, he stepped into the NBA Finals at center, filling in for an injured Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Magic delivered 42 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists, an impossible performance that won the championship and announced his arrival as a legend. Over the next decade, he won 5 NBA titles, 3 MVP awards, and became the face of basketball itself. But the higher he climbed, the more the spotlight began to feel like surveillance. The price of greatness: isolation behind the spotlight. Fame brought wealth, but it also brought isolation. As Magic's career exploded, his life became a performance. Every smile was measured. Every word was analyzed. Every relationship became a potential transaction. He was surrounded by thousands of fans, yet he felt alone. The pressure to be Magic every night became unbearable. Sleep became rare, and trust became nearly impossible. He didn't know who loved Earvin Johnson and who loved Magic Johnson. By 1987, his income exceeded $10 million a year, and his world had grown far beyond Lansing. Luxury homes, cars, and fame surrounded him, yet the emotional cost was enormous. The spotlight that once felt like validation began to feel like a cage. He realized that success has a price that no championship ring can pay. The diagnosis that shattered the world. On November 7, 1991, Magic Johnson received news that would change his life forever. He was HIV positive. At 32 years old, newly married to Cookie, at the height of his powers, he was suddenly facing a death sentence. The world reacted with shock and fear. Newspapers printed obituaries. Experts predicted he had only a few years left. Magic believed he was dying. He thought he had ruined his wife's life and would never meet his child. He cried in the middle of the night, counting his remaining days like a prisoner marking walls. The diagnosis stripped away every illusion of control. It didn't just threaten his career, it threatened his existence. The world turned away. People refused to shake his hand. Children were pulled from classrooms when he visited. Even friends began to avoid him. The virus didn't just attack his body, it attacked his identity, survival, resilience, and a new legacy. But Magic Johnson refused to let the virus win. He returned to public life as a symbol of resilience. He became a powerful advocate for HIV awareness and treatment, using his voice to fight stigma. He embraced discipline, taking medications daily and monitoring his health with strict precision. He rebuilt his life, becoming a billionaire entrepreneur with ownership stakes in major sports franchises, real estate, and media. His net worth now exceeds $1.5 billion, proof that he transformed pain into power. He built an empire not just for himself, but for his family and community. His children and grandchildren became the living proof that he had won more than basketball. He had won life. Outro: the true meaning of Magic. Johnson's legacy isn't measured only in championships, awards, or wealth. It is measured in survival, in the boy who carried garbage at dawn, and refused to be defined by humiliation. In the man who was told he would die and chose instead to live, fiercely and deliberately. Magic is not just a nickname. It's a promise that the human spirit can rise above any darkness. He proved that greatness is not simply about talent, but about resilience, about the courage to keep going when the world expects you to fall. And as long as he wakes each morning, takes his medicine, and chooses life again, Magic Johnson remains a living testament to the power of hope.